welcome to Week 5 of the Turnover NFL podcast and the NFL season. We have a great show ahead of us. I'm alongside Kelvin Reisenfeld.
Back at it.
Yes, we are. We're doing a giveaway at the end of the show. Stay tuned. To start us off, Kelvin requested that he gets to talk about the NFC East and the Cowboys a little bit, so I'm going to give him the floor to talk about the 1-2-1 Philadelphia Eagles who are leading in the rest of the division. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm excited for this one. I've been talking to Kerstetter all week about this, and so week 1 of the show, Kerstetter, I'm not trying to diminish your opinions here, but you did say that the Cowboys are going to go 12-4. They are currently 1-3.
Yep.
And so just some stats that I'd like to give about the America's football team. Your defense is giving up 37.25 points a game. Now, you're not going to be winning football games. I don't care what division you're in if you have those kind of numbers. Dak Prescott is currently leading the NFL in passing yards on a 1-3 NFL team. He's averaging 422 yards a game with 2 touchdowns. Their third down conversion right now is 23 for 51. That's not good.
Nope.
That is under 50%.
Yep.
That's very bad. Very bad.
Long story short.
Their fourth down percentage right now is they're 4 for 9. And it doesn't make any sense the fact that their red zone percentage on scoring right now is 71.43%, and 54.76% of those are resulting in touchdowns. So, yeah, it's really easy to point the finger at the fact that the defense is giving up so many points, except that their turnover ratio right now is -7. And if your defense is on the field the entire game, you're not going to be winning football games, and it's not necessarily their fault that all these points are being results of their actions. It's the fact that they're turning the ball over. So, the Dallas Cowboys, I said it last week, it was a must-win game, and you just go out there and give 49-pieced by the Browns. And you only gave up 38 to the Seahawks. Is the Browns, that offense, that much better than the Seahawks?
They're explosive, man.
I don't think they're that much better than the Seahawks.
Yeah.
I don't even think they're in the same
Wilson's
category. I'm just saying, Cowboys, you better get it together. You better get it together, or else this season is going downhill, and you will not make the playoffs, and you will not even come on top of your terribly weak conference. America's football team representing it well because you guys suck.
Bit of a two-part follow-up question. So the first one can be answered easily. Who do you think is going to win that conference?
The Eagles. The Eagles will win that conference and make the playoffs.
They're so bad.
Off of a 7-8-1 record. They will make the playoffs off of a under 500
take that to the
record.
bank.
And you can take that to the bank and deposit it.
All right, so the second part of the question is, say the Cowboys don't make the playoffs, and for them to not make the playoffs in that division, they're going to have to go 6-10.
Yes.
Like, actually.
Yes.
Is Dak Prescott Cowboys quarterback next year? Way too early prediction.
I would counter that with, I think Dak Prescott will be the quarterback next year. I do not believe Mike McCarthy will be the head coach anymore.
After 1 year?
Yes. After the talent that this football team has, Ezekiel Elliott has not had a 100-yard game yet. Dak Prescott is leading the NFL in yardage right now, so I think that his job is secure. I think they got some other problems, and I think it starts in the top. I mean, they ditched their head coach, and they got a new one this year, and Mike McCarthy just isn't performing. It's not the same Packers offense that he had.
Oh, yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
All right, so now we're going to shift to the NFC West. What do you think's going on in that division? We got Arizona, who we thought was going to be honestly better than 2-2 because they were 2-0 and they had 2 good wins. And now they're 2-2. You've got the Rams, who are a good football team. You've got the Seahawks, who are a good football team. And the Niners are hurt, but they come back in a couple weeks. Raheem Mostert's questionable this week. Jimmy G's questionable. Yeah. As of right now, they could come back this week, be healthy, or next week be healthy. So what do you think's going on there?
You know, I think that it's going to be tough because this division is going to get kind of screwed over by the NFC East, because one of these teams right now is not going to be making the playoffs due to the fact that one of those under 500 teams will. The Rams, Cardinals, Seahawks, and the 49ers, I think, all could be playoff contenders this year as of right now. It's a really competitive division, always is, but I'm excited to see where that one goes for sure.
Kyler Murray has not looked – the first 2 weeks we hyped him up a lot. He was averaging more than 45 yards, more rushing than he was last year. I think he's dropped back down to where he was at last year's point. They've lost the last 2 games. I don't think he threw for 200 yards last week. I think he threw 190.
Do you think your Lions kind of roughed him up a little bit there?
I think the Lions. Jeffrey Okudah with the interception really rattled him. I mean, he threw 3 picks against the Lions, and then I believe he threw 2 last week. So that shows where he's going. I still have faith in him. He's an incredible talent. We'll see what he can do. I've still got the Seahawks winning that division. I think even if the 49ers end up healthy, the Seahawks will win that division by 2 games.
I agree. I think the Seahawks right now are going to be a clear-cut possibly fighting for the #1 spot in the NFC.
The only thing that's holding them back is their secondary.
Yes.
So what else were we going to talk about? We were going to talk about the AL Central, right?
Yeah, we were going to talk about the AFC North.
AFC North.
Yeah, another
Central
competitive.
baseball.
Yeah. another big division right now in football. The Steelers are currently undefeated and 3-0 because they didn't play last week. The Ravens right now are 3-1, and the Browns are also 3-1, and the Bengals are sitting at the bottom of the pecking order, 1-2-1, unfortunately. Competitive division. I think 2, maybe possibly 3 teams, depending on how the Browns do, could be making the playoffs, depending on that third wild card.
It is a deep AFC this year. The conference in itself, even with the expanded playoff, is going to struggle to get 3 teams from the same conference. However, if you're going to pick one out, you've got the Steelers, who aren't too much of a surprise as they're good. Maybe we were surprised that they've been as good as they have been, but their defense was going to be phenomenal this year. The Ravens are obviously going to be the Ravens. They're going to win 12 games this year, most likely, maybe 13. And then the Browns. I mean, we've had a lot of people talking to us because we have a lot of Cleveland fans around here that are trying to get a shout out. We're not really ready to go down. Yeah, not ready to go down that route yet.
Not buying it yet. Not buying it.
Not yet. Maybe in a couple weeks, but it's a division that's exciting, and everything about it's exciting. And the Browns play the Colts this week. That's 2 3-1 teams. I still am not sold on the Colts at all. Phillip Rivers had less than 200 yards last week. The entire offense rushed for about 100 yards, I believe. And I'm still not buying the Colts. They're 3-1. They're just like the freaking Bears. 2 3-1 teams that just should be 1-3, honestly.
Yeah.
But they're not, so we'll see what they're all about.
So now, really quick, we had some COVID scares last week. Cam Newton tested positive, along with a couple other players from the Titans team. What would you do? I mean, like I know we've talked about this a little bit behind scenes, like what we would have done if this was our situation. I know they moved some games around, but what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think what's going to be incredibly exposed, which the NFL might have not realized, is that this is a 2-week thing, and the Titans are consistently adding. They actually are currently adding more numbers to the COVID-19 list, putting this week's game against the Bills in jeopardy. So what does that mean? They already moved a bye week 1 week earlier. They're going to have to reshuffle a lot, maybe even expand the season. I believe they should have already expanded the season, given 2 bye weeks for everybody, with no preseason, no extra training or anything. They're already going to get hurt. Maybe you split it up 50-50. The AFC has a bye week, an extra bye week in week 6. The NFC has an extra bye week in week 12. Something like that, so that you can plug and fill when there's games that are going to get canceled. Because though they were able to move around the Titans and Steelers, they were supposed to play last week. Although they were able to move that around, they weren't going to account for the Titans possibly not being able to play this week. So then what do? You have this team that's played 3 weeks going into week 6 next week. They would be 3-0 going into week 6 with 2 byes. They'd have to play 13 straight games for the rest of the year. I think that having that 2 already set in stone byes, that way if this game were to get canceled, they could fill it in week 12 because everybody has a bye week that week, or week 6. So I think that they weren't as fluid as they should have been with everything. They kind of just were like, we're just going to go with it, and when a problem comes, we'll face it head on.
Right. Cross that bridge when we get there, kind of thing.
Exactly, and I just think that was not the right move to do.
Yeah, I think that they're kind of probably, not patting themselves on the back right now by the way they've handled the situation. Especially now, because Cam Newton now had to miss against the game against the Chiefs, which I think that game could honestly be a different outcome if Cam Newton's playing in that game.
The Chiefs didn't look good.
No, I think they
26-10.
Yeah, 26-10. They only had 6 points in the first half.
Yeah, 6-3 in the first half.
I think if Cam Newton, that's a completely different game.
You're telling me if you have your starting quarterback who is a top 10 quarterback in the league, it's not a different outcome. So yeah, it is like a sprained ankle, and it's how deep is your team this year. As we watched with the NBA and the NHL, having the bubbles did work.
It did.
The MLB didn't. They had the Marlins get shut down for a bit. The St. Louis Cardinals get shut down for the bit. That doesn't just affect them. It affected the Detroit Tigers, who they were supposed to play. It affected, I believe, the Marlins were supposed to play the Phillies at some point. I'm not entirely sure on that one, but I just know that the Tigers had 6 games in 10 days against the Cardinals, and they couldn't play because of it. So the bubble system, it works. It's really hard to do it in the NFL.
So many more players, so many more.
Their season hadn't started.
Yeah.
But some type of system like that to keep them maintained.
Yeah, and just make sure that they have a strict policy on it too. I mean, a couple of guys in the NBA even broke the bubble policy, and they got suspended for a couple games for it until their test came back.
They're actually threatening draft picks.
Really?
Yes, I just read that the other day for players that are players and coaching staffs that are not adhering to the rules, they're threatening to take draft picks away. Which, to me, that's like extreme,
that's
but
very extreme. That's not even.
You're going to
like,
control them.
I know. That'll work.
You're going to lose your second-round pick because someone went out and drank one night? Like, no way.
No. Or hot wings at a club.
Yeah, like, seriously.
Williams.
Like, at a club. But, yeah, it's a really sticky situation. It'll be interesting to see how they handle it. Hopefully everything goes well. We obviously hope for the health of everybody, that everybody's going to make it through and that we can play football this year in that order. But, you know, there's better ways to handle it than they've done.
I agree. I think they've done better ways than the NFL's doing. So it's on them.
We'll take a break. So now we are moving on to predictions for Week 5. Just to update everybody where we're at, I personally went 11-4 last week, putting me to 42-21, and Kelvin went 10-5 last week. He is at 38-25. Something fun to point out, if he didn't take the Bengals every week.
Oh, yeah, point it out, huh?
It would be a one game. It would be within one game. I'd just like to point that out.
You want to give me that little left haymaker right off the bat, huh?
What are you thinking? What are you thinking? What's going on?
With the Bengals? Or what am I with my record?
What's going on with you? Is it the Bengals?
It's clearly the Bengals. I mean, I put my heart and soul into that team, and they disappoint me. We got a big win last week, though.
Yeah, I mean, Joe Burrow, what is it, first quarterback ever?
Yeah, first rookie quarterback, 3 straight weeks of 300-plus passing yards.
He looks like the real deal. He looks
franchise quarterback.
Also, Dwayne Haskins gets benched this week. Let's talk about that briefly. What do you think that Washington gave up on him too quick?
I mean, it's only week 4. I mean, they only played 4 games, no preseason or anything like that. I get it. You want to, like, maybe even make him want to play a little harder, you know, work for his spot a little bit more. But I don't know. I think that the Washington football team definitely would like to fix any facet of their game that they could, and I guess they're trying to experiment, especially in their weak division right now.
Yeah, given the fact that they are half a game out of first place and they are 1-3. However, I personally think that they gave up on him too quickly. That's a non-biased opinion. I'm an Ohio State fan. Whatever. If you look at Daniel Jones' stats, dude that was drafted a few spots before him, he's on the Giants. Dwayne Haskins has, I believe it's 3 more interceptions than him, but every other stat favors Haskins.
Okay.
Same amount of wins. They've both won, like, 1 game. But, yeah, it's like combined over the last 2 years.
Right, no, I know.
Yeah, I'm just making sure, but that's how bad they've been. But you compare the stats, and Haskins has better stats and everything in less time played. And Daniel Jones is still getting that opportunity.
Right.
So it makes you question. Well, the Washington football team, they are already questionable top to bottom.
Yeah.
I love Ron Rivera, though. I do think he's a good coach.
I think they show a lot of promise with that defensive front, too. I think if you can build around the battle of the trenches, get that offensive line a little better, maybe acquire a little bit more offensive targets than just McLaurin, they got a pretty good chance to be a decent football team.
McLaurin is really, really good.
Sorry, they have a chance to be a decent football team in a terrible division.
They have a chance to go 6-10 and get first in the division. We'll clarify that. But the defense, we have learned in the past that a good defense beats a good offense.
Yes.
The Seahawks beat the Broncos. That year was #1 defense versus the #1 offense. Seahawks dismantled the Broncos.
It was one of the worst Super Bowls I think I've ever watched.
Next year, the Broncos had a bad offense. They were bouncing between crippled Peyton Manning and Brock Osweiler, who cost hundreds of millions of dollars for absolutely no reason.
Right.
And they had the #1 defense in the league, and they went against the Panthers, Cam Newton and the Panthers, who had one of the best offenses in the league. Best defense won. So if you take that into rebuilding, and you can rebuild around that and just kind of put a few weapons into the offense, I think Washington can go 6-10 and win the division.
We're like trying to scale this down from Super Bowl contending winning teams
we're like,
to the NFC
we need
West.
to make sure we let everybody know that we're not talking about next year. They're going to make the Super Bowl if they had Des Bryant.
Oh, no.
All right, tonight's game, we got the Bucs and the Bears. What are you thinking?
I got the Bucs in this game. I don't really think I got to expand on this a whole lot. I think it'll be interesting to see Nick Foles go up against Tom Brady again and kind of have that little rivalry that they had in that one Super Bowl that Nick Foles won the MVP on. I just think the Bucs defense is looking a lot better than a lot of people thought. I mean, I said at the beginning of the year, I think that their defense is really underrated due to the fact that Jameis Winston was throwing 30 interceptions. I think they struggled against Chargers, but I expect Tom Brady to kind of roll off the way that he finished that game. He had 5 touchdowns last week, so
yeah.
I think that he's going to kind of build that momentum, and I think this offense is only going to get better as they gel more throughout the season.
Yeah, that's a good point to give. Also, Gronkowski has to take in more of a role than he wants to. Originally, he stated that he's happy being a blocker this year and really doesn't even want targets. He just wants to be a part of the team, and props to him for coming back and doing that. He lost weight. He looks good. As you said, Brady had 5 touchdowns. The defense has 14 sacks so far. That's second best in the league. And they have the second best rush defense, allowing well under 300 yards through 4 games.
Right.
So that's obviously something to talk about. Foles threw for 249 yards last week in his first full week as a starter. He had 1 touchdown, 1 interception. But they put up 11 points against a thriving Colts team. I think this Bucs team has a better defense than the Colts team. Yeah. And I'll take the Bucs. Bucs are favored by 5 in Vegas. I'd take them by about that. Maybe 10. 5 to 10 would be for me.
I would say I would agree with that if this was not a Thursday night game in Chicago. I think that they could. I mean, I think the Bucs are going to win by a touchdown. That's where I would put my bet. So
right in the middle of what I was saying.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. So now we have the Bills and the Titans. Now these are 2 undefeated teams that, honestly, as we had briefly stated before, are in threat of not having a game this week because of the Titans. They keep having positive COVID tests. They're still considering an outbreak. There's rumors going around. They're supposed to be shut down still, their facilities and everything, but there's rumors going around that they've held private practices.
That's what I just was about to bring up. Yeah, I saw videos of that on Twitter, actually.
So if that's true, maybe they'll lose draft picks. Maybe they're going to get heavily fined. We know that. Coaches have been getting fined. Teams have been getting fined for mask mandates. Maybe they lose draft picks. All that aside, if this game happens, I give it to the Bills.
Absolutely.
I think the Bills are a really good team. I don't think that we doubted them. I just don't think we gave them enough props in the beginning of the year. I think that they are a team that, if you are not talking about having the Chiefs and the Ravens in your division, you're talking about the Bills, or in the conference, you're talking about the Bills being a top team in the conference.
Easily.
Which they're going to be a top 4 team in the conference. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I'm taking the Bills. In Vegas, it says by 1.
Oh.
I say by 3 because the Titans always play 3-point games.
They play close games. I think the Bills are simply just a way better team, a way better undefeated team than the Titans are. I think that the defense of the Bills is going to just shut down Derrick Henry. Ryan Tannehill is going to struggle. Josh Allen, Alley Cass, I'm sorry for everything that I said about being questionable at Josh Allen. He might be the real deal. He's top 5, I think, right now, performance-wise, in the league. So
can't argue it.
Can't argue it. The Bills got everything flowing, and I'd take them by at least a touchdown.
Next, we have the Texans and the Jaguars. Why don't you take the floor?
Want me to take it?
Yeah.
This was a toss-up for me. Jaguars coming off a loss to the Bengals, Houday, obviously. The Texans just fired their head coach and their GM. I think they're going to be struggling a lot. I think the Texans have a lot of problems with their organization right now. Deshaun Watson is a good quarterback. I'll give him that. I just think they're better than the Jags, though, even though they have kind of some turmoil going on. I'm not completely giving up on. I've never really bought into the Minshew mania yet. I'm not bought in or sold in on that at all. I don't know if he's going to even be around for the next couple of years in Jaguars uniform.
Yeah, especially if they struggle. You did say you're taking the Houston Texans. They're favored by 6.
Yeah.
Okay. Especially given the fact that if they do only win 2 games this year, 3 games this year, they're in contention to get Trevor Lawrence or Justin Fields. And obviously, you can't turn that down for anyone. If you're a bottom 5 team and you have a decent quarterback and you turn down Trevor Lawrence or Justin Fields, you better trade your pick for somebody else. But I'm taking the Texans this week. Deshaun threw for 300 yards and 2 TDs last week. The Vikings defense, who the Texans played last week, is better than the Jaguars. I've never been totally sold on Minshew Mania. I love watching him play. He's a clown. He's got a big mustache, whatever. He looks like he should be in the 1970s, the way he wears jorts and everything. He's a clown, but still haven't bought into him as a quarterback. He looked great week 1, hasn't looked good since. Expect James Robinson of the Jaguars.
He's good.
Yeah, he is. Expect him to rush for about 100 yards, flirt with it. He undrafted, probably having the best start to an undrafted career you could ever have.
He's
rushing
solid
for close to
all
100
around.
yards
He's
every week.
Strong, fast. He can break tackles, gets yardage after he makes contact with people. I like everything about that kid. I hope he gets off the Jaguars.
And he had big shoes to fill. Yeah. He had to fill Leonard Fournette's shoes. But Houston can't control the run game. They gave up 130 yards to Dalvin Cook last week. Expect James Robinson to have a good game. I don't think that Houston's a good football team by any means, but they are less bad than the Jaguars. I'll take Houston by touchdown.
Right on.
So now we have the Bengals and the Ravens. Ravens are favored by 13. Joe Mixon put up 181 yards last week of total offense, 3 touchdowns. Joe Burrow, first rookie in NFL history to throw 300 yards in 3 straight games. They looked better last week than they have all year. Lamar had 2 touchdowns specifically to Mark Andrews, and he also ran the ball well. You saw that 50-yard touchdown run, just running right up the middle. Baltimore 2 weeks ago got dismantled by the Chiefs. That was not the Baltimore team that we expected to see. Last week, they kind of looked like they returned to form a little bit. However, this week, I expect them to fully return to form and destroy the Bengals.
Thanks. I'm going to keep this short and sweet so I don't start crying on set. The Ravens are going to beat the Bengals this week, and this is the first time I'm not taking the Bengals, and I think I should probably start doing that to have my record head in the right direction. I was kind of thinking this last night, too, and with the Baltimore Ravens, they're a really good football team. They are going to beat the Bengals tomorrow. I think they're going to be contending for the AFC. However, they play a college style of offense, and it is really hard in the NFL. We've seen it historically for college performing offense, like the way that they move, the way that their offense is organized is similar to the play that we see in colleges.
Like Navy.
Yeah, exactly.
Or Ohio State.
Exactly. I just don't. It's really hard to translate that style of play while running the option and having a dominant run game and having a quarterback who can throw the ball but not as well as he's on his feet. It's really hard to compete in the bigger, stronger NFL.
It becomes more apparent when they play teams against coaches that are really well aware of how to stop it.
Like the Chiefs.
And Andy Reid is a great coach. He's an offensive guru. However, he solved the Ravens. So we'll see how Harbaugh is able to keep adjusting, because last year they looked really good. They looked like they ran into a straight brick wall against the Chiefs. He's going to make adjustments. We're going to see what he does. Lamar Jackson's 0-3 against Pat Mahomes.
Say what you want, but stats don't lie.
Yeah, like plain and simple, Mahomes, they struggled against the Chargers, and then they just went out and laid the hammer down on Baltimore, who is a much better team than the Chargers.
Yeah.
So big players win big games. Now we have the Falcons and the Panthers. The Falcons are favored by 2.5. With this one, the Panthers are 2-0 since Christian McCaffrey went down. McCaffrey should be back in, I believe it's 3 or 4 weeks. Mike Davis is filling the role well so far, over 100 scrimmage yards last week. Who would have thought? Yeah. Obviously, he's no CMC, but he's got over 100 scrimmage yards last week. You can't complain about
Props
that.
to that offensive line.
Yeah, that offensive line knows how to run the ball. Bridgewater looking better. He had 276 yards and 2 touchdowns last week. The Falcons are slowly just deteriorating into a dumpster fire. Their coach is on the hot seat. Matt Ryan, he puts up yards. He doesn't do anything except that. He threw for 285 yards last week. Todd Gurley ran for 57. He is questionable. They're limiting his reps because of his knees. Yeah. Obviously, you need to do that, but he's your HB1. You can't rely on him.
No, they got a good backup though. Brian Hill looks pretty decent for the most part, but I agree. He's not Gurley.
Last week, the Falcons, in a game where we knew the Packers would win, but it was more of like can the Falcons keep up with them? They did not at all. It was just not even close. Aaron Rodgers literally had a smile on his face the whole time, like a kid in the candy store, running around, throwing the ball to everybody. They still haven't turned the ball over, the Packers, all year. The Falcons are not a good team. Falcons are favored by 2.5. I'm surprised by that. I've got the Panthers by 4 or 5.
Yeah, I'll keep it short and sweet. I think I'm going to counter you. I think that the Panthers are really good. Teddy Bridgewater is looking better. I'm going to take the Falcons in this game. I like the fact that I think they're going to try and get their second win of the season.
No, they don't
first win of the season. Yeah. Sorry, they lost that game against the Cowboys. They shouldn't have. And that's all I'm going to say about that game. The other thing that I will bring up, though, however, is Aaron Rodgers for the Packers. I'm going to bring it up because they don't have a game this week. Broke an NFL record last week too, of the highest QBR rating through the first 4 weeks. It was a 92.8.
Jeez.
So that was just kind of going off of the no interceptions either.
Yeah, that man can play.
Yeah.
Now we have the Chiefs and the Raiders. Chiefs are favored by 13.
I don't know about 13, but they're definitely going to dominate this game. Patrick Mahomes is the real deal, as we've seen time and time again. Travis Kelce had a decent week last week. I believe he had I think there was only 3 receptions for 80 yards though.
Yeah, something stupid.
Yeah. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, I think, is going to be a pretty impactful guy. See how he performs this game, because the Raiders do stop the run pretty well. They're a really organized team. Again, I'm sorry, Vegas. I can't do it against the Chiefs this week. I'm taking the Chiefs.
Yeah, I'm taking the Chiefs as well. I do think that the Vegas Raiders are well organized, as you said, and they're able to keep games close. I also said that when they played the Patriots, and the Patriots ripped them apart.
Yeah.
but considering it's a division game, I think it'll be closer. I don't know about 13. I'd give it maybe 10. Chiefs defense held the Patriots to 10 points last week. They had 4 turnovers. I know that they were without Cam Newton, but they were able to shut down everything else, kind of put it on the quarterback to try and beat him, and the quarterback couldn't, so props to them. Raiders did not play a complete game against the Bills last week. They had a fumble late in the game. Darren Fowler had a fumble. The Bills, in just a few plays, marched down the field, scored a touchdown that ended up being the end of the game. I've got the Chiefs in this one. The Raiders are a decent football team, but they're not there yet.
Right. I think they're on the edge, the verge of being a really good team.
A couple of pieces away that fit the memo.
I agree.
So now we got Cardinals versus Jets. Before I say anything about this, let me just spit some knowledge about the Jets. Last week they played an undrafted free agent quarterback. They played the Denver Broncos. They played someone who has a very good running back hurt in Phillip Lindsay. They had 3 interceptions, a pick 6, and they lost. They lost to the Broncos, and that speaks volumes for how bad this Jets team is. Arizona has had their struggles. They gave up 450 yards to the Christian McCaffrey-less Panthers last week. However, the Jets are just a very bad football team. Cardinals by 7. Yeah, I'll take them by 7.
Yeah, I would agree. The Cardinals, I think, are going to try and look to get things moving back in the right direction. I just feel like every week, man, we're just shitting on the Jets all the time because they're that bad. Like,
both New York teams.
They're that bad. They were handed a football game last week. They were being begged to win the game, and they just wouldn't do it.
And they found a way to lose.
Yeah.
Bad teams find a way to lose.
That's all I'm going to say. Cardinals are going to win this game by more than 7.
Yeah. All right, now you got Steelers-Eagles. What you thinking?
It hurts me so bad that the Steelers are going to be undefeated still after this. I think that the Eagles are, while they're on top of this conference and winning the game against the 49ers, I think that is more appealing to the eye than what it actually was. If you actually watched the game, the Eagles kind of had that game handed to them by their backup quarterback of the Niners, who threw the game away essentially at the end. I think the Eagles are going to be on top of their conference still after this week, even because I don't think any of those teams in that division are going to win this week. So I'm taking the Steelers.
Yeah, I'm taking the Steelers as well. They're favored by 7. Steelers are one of the 6 undefeated teams remaining. They obviously didn't play last week due to COVID. They have 13 straight games. We'll see how Mike Tomlin handles that and the depth of that team.
They're rested now.
Yeah. The Eagles are they got their first win last week against a wounded San Francisco team. However, the Steelers are too good top to bottom. Carson Wentz might get sacked double digits. Like, actually, T.J. Watt might have 4 sacks himself. That defense is just too good to even give up 17 points to the Eagles. I don't think the Eagles put up even 17. I'd take Steelers by 2 touchdowns.
Oh, wow, 14-point game.
Yeah.
Big win.
Now we got the Rams and the Washington football team. We already kind of spoke about how Haskins threw for 314 yards last week, but he's benched. Terry McLaurin almost always has good games. He's just a very good receiver on a very bad team. The Rams struggled against the Giants' D last week. They only had 250 yards offensively. This defense is actually tougher than the Giants' D, so we'll see how the Rams, how McVay answers that, how Jared Goff does this week. However, I'm giving it to the Rams. They're favored by 7.5. I'm giving it to the Rams simply because top to bottom, they're better.
Yeah. The Rams, they got one of the best defenses in the league. They're up there. I don't think that this Washington offense, a below-average offense right now, with trying a new quarterback against one of the best defenses.
Kyle Allen, isn't it?
Yeah. Kyle Allen.
You ever hear of him?
Huh?
You ever heard of Kyle Allen?
You know, it doesn't ring any bells, actually.
No.
Did he? Who did he used to play for? Or is this his first year?
I'm pretty sure he's a rookie.
Wow.
An undrafted rookie.
Yeah, all right. Well, then, best of luck, kid. You're going up against the Rams defense.
Yeah.
Taking the Rams, by the way.
No, I figured. All right, 49ers, Dolphins. 49ers are favored by 8.
I got the 49ers. They're going to come off of they're trying to bounce back after that loss last week. Short and sweet again. I think even who questionable or not, who's playing or not, the 49ers are going to win this game, which is also a very hesitant pick for me because they are on edge this year. I'm not sold on them like I was at the beginning of the season or last year. I don't think they're the team they were last year, considering all the injuries right now. George Kittle is a huge factor. Ryan Fitzpatrick's going up against the Niners defense. Devontae Parker's been a pretty good performing wide receiver for them this year so far, but I'm taking the Niners. What was it, 8.5?
8.
Nah, I would take the Dolphins on the spread, but I think I would take the Niners to win the game.
Yeah. I'm actually taking the Dolphins. This is my upset of the week. San Francisco lost to a very weak Eagles team. I would actually, if you played the Dolphins versus the Eagles, I think it would be a coin flip of a game right this second. Miami lost by 8 to a good Seattle team. Fitzpatrick had 315 yards. That Seattle secondary is the only questionable thing in Seattle right now. Jimmy G and Mostert are questionable. We talked about that. I don't think Jimmy G plays this week. I think he plays next week. I think Raheem Mostert plays this week, but limited. Expect him and Jerick McKinnon to probably have 10 carries each. They're both good running backs. They'll probably have 100 yards combined, maybe more. But I still think Miami gets their first dub this week. I like Flores. I like what he's doing down there. He's keeping them motivated. Fitzpatrick's hilarious. I mean, Fitzmagic.
He reminds me of a Minshew right now. The Minshew mania right now is kind of reminding me of the fact of when, like, Conor McGregor and Fitzpatrick were, like, kind of being compared at that time. And
the swagger of playing on bad teams.
Yeah, exactly. Like
putting good performances for no reason.
So what? Mm-hmm. Like, your team's, 4-12? Congrats. Like,
we're going to win the first game next year. Yeah. But I'm actually taking Miami this week. Upset of the week for me.
I like that. Sticking to your guns. Maybe I'll maybe rise on the pecking order a little bit there.
Oh, yeah, we'll see. We got Cowboys versus Giants this week. This is an awful Giants team versus a sad Cowboys team. The Cowboys have allowed 146 points through 4 games. You had mentioned that. Dak has 1,700 yards. He's averaging 425 per game.
Yeah,
threw the ball 58 times last week. Zeke over 120 yards from scrimmage. By the way, these are all stats from a loss last week against the Cowboys.
Yeah.
At one point in the fourth quarter, the Cowboys had over 200 yards, and the Browns had 20 yards. And then Odell ran for 50 yards and a touchdown. The Cowboys' defense is very sus. Cowboys are favored by 10. I'm still taking the Cowboys and the spread. They should win this game by more than 10. And if they don't, that's going to be bad.
The Cowboys! The Cowboys?
Yeah.
You better win this game. You lost to the Browns by 11. You better beat the Giants because they are bad. The Giants are bad. They're up there with the Jets. The New York teams are not looking good. The Saquonless Giants are going to be in trouble. Daniel Jones is getting rushed every play, it looks like, right now. I know I was just absolutely taking a dumpster on the Cowboys at the beginning of this take, and I am still circling them, and I hope they make me look like an idiot so I can just yell at them again next week.
So you're taking the Cowboys?
Yeah.
Would you take them by 10?
No. Take them by maybe a safety at this point with their luck.
The way that I look at this game is I have the Cowboys circled because you have to not know football to not circle the Cowboys, even though they're not playing well. I hope the Giants win.
I hope they do.
I hope they win. Now we have the Patriots and the Broncos. Patriots are favored by 11.
I think that's going to depend on the outcome of whether Cam Newton's playing or not. I still like the Pats to win the game. I'm not really sure on the spread on that one because of the injuries and Stephon Gilmore now testing positive for COVID as well. It's going to hurt their defense a little bit. But the Broncos, I don't really see a whole lot going for them in this season so far. I know they beat the Jets, but they didn't look good.
But they beat the Jets.
They beat the Jets.
Woohoo.
Exactly. Who?
Yeah,
but I got the Pats.
I also have the Pats. Damian Harris ran for 100 yards last week. Again, I think if you're on the spread, Cam Newton kind of plays a large factor in that, as well as Stephon Gilmore. That man is an absolute menace. Tim Patrick last week for the Broncos had over 100 yards receiving. Jerry Jeudy had a few big receptions, including a big touchdown. He looked good. I like watching Jerry Jeudy. Right now he just doesn't have a quarterback to throw to. Melvin Gordon had over 100 yards. I still take Patriots with this win, with or without Cam. Spread kind of depends on Cam. Now we've got the Vikings and the Seahawks. Now this game does have potential to be a pretty good game of the week. However, I just don't think it does. Just because if Thielen and Rudolph and Jefferson all show up, they could really torch this Seahawks secondary. However, last week Wilson had another 360 yards, 2 touchdowns. Carson ran for 80 yards. He was questionable all week, and he still ran for 80 yards. Metcalf looks better and better each week.
He's so good.
He looks like, just a wide receiver 1. However, he's got Tyler Lockett.
He's just big body, fast, can catch the ball. He's like a young Andre Johnson.
Yeah, and he's strong, doesn't drop it. He makes his mistakes every now and then, like that fumble against Dallas. But he's young. He'll learn. He probably already learned. Dalvin Cook had 130 yards last week. Kirk Cousins threw 73%. He had 260 yards. Thielen and Jefferson combined for well over 200 yards receiving. Expect a decent game. Seahawks are favored by 7. I'd probably take them by 7 or less.
Yeah. I think you said that I think this has potential to be a shootout, especially with the Seahawks secondary. They got a couple injuries on that line. However, Russell Wilson just tied another record. Peyton Manning, I believe, 16 touchdowns. Maybe you've heard of Peyton Manning.
Once or twice.
Yeah, 16 touchdowns for the first 4 weeks, and he's he's looking like he's having an MVP season. Vikings, Dalvin Cook has been on a tear the past 2 weeks. I don't think that he necessarily performs as well. He's not running against the Texans this week. But I think that the offense of the Seahawks is just going to overpower that Vikings defense.
I believe the year you're talking about that Peyton Manning had 16 touchdowns through 4 weeks was that 2012 year. And Peyton Manning did win MVP that year, and they had one of the best offenses of all time.
Yes.
So now we move on to the Saints and the Chargers.
Take it away.
The first thing I have written down is the Saints scored 35 unanswered against the Lions last week. I say that thinking I'm going to go cry after this game because they were up 14-0 so quick, and I was so excited, texting everyone thinking the Lions were going to do it. That was without Michael Thomas. I think Michael Thomas is the most valuable receiver in the league to his team. Not even if you don't argue he's the top talent in the league, you can argue one or two, but nobody else.
Top wide receiver talent or just top talent?
Top wide receiver talent.
Okay.
Top value, it's got to be Michael Thomas, looking at how that offense runs with versus without him. Alvin Kamara is a freaking beast. I mean, he has averaged close to 200 scrimmage yards ever since Michael Thomas went down. However, this is a throwing league. You need Michael Thomas. Herbert had 290 yards last week. They had 46 total rushing yards, though, as a team, the Chargers. Eckler went down. Expect Justin Jackson to step up this week. He hasn't been getting as many reps. He should this week. Justin Jackson was, I believe, HB3 on their depth chart. Eckler's out for 4 to 6 weeks, hyperextended knee hamstring injury. Saints are favored by 7.5. I think that they win by, if Michael Thomas is back, I got him by 14.
Okay. Justin Herbert looked really good last week, going up against toe-for-toe for Tom Brady. I still think the Saints are going to win this game. I think Drew Brees really didn't realize how badly he loved throwing the ball to Michael Thomas. And I think it's evident now, especially off of his yardage. I think he only had 166 passing yards last week. I might be wrong, but it was not anything significant, and it hasn't been this year. I'd say Drew Brees, from a yardage standpoint, is underperforming, especially compared to last year. He had a great year last year, and he's not starting up quite as hot. And I think the only correlation you can see with that is the fact that Michael Thomas hasn't been playing. Alvin Kamara is I think him and Aaron Jones right now are the number 1 and 2. I'd take Kamara slightly over Jones right now, but I think those guys are 2 top backs in the league. They can play receiver, they can play in the slot, they can run out of the backfield. Taking the Saints, I think that even though the Chargers played a good game last week, I don't think that the Saints' aggressive defensive style is going to feed well to Justin Herbert. I don't think that's going to be a good day for him. No,
that Saints secondary, if they're healthy, they have one of the better secondaries in the league. They've had Jenkins is out, Arshawn Lattimore's out. They get healthy, they'll be right back to where they were as a top contender in the NFC.
That's in the Saints. They just play so aggressive on defense. Like
that's Sean Payton.
They play every possession looking to not even make a play necessarily. They just look to hit somebody.
Blitz.
Yeah, blitz, hit somebody, cause some havoc. I don't know. I just think that the Saints are going to cause a lot of problems for the Chargers.
We're moving on to our game of the week. It's the Browns and the Colts. Both teams are 3-1. This is where we're going to do our giveaway. So the way the giveaway works is you can comment on the video below, or you can contact Kelvin and I through text if you have our number. Otherwise, DM us on Twitter. I'm at AKirst. Kelv_Reisenfeld.
These are the giveaway shirts. Shout out to the Student Body President O for hooking us up with these. As you can see, they're pretty stylish. I myself have one. You can't really get these anymore, so if you want to, get a giveaway, go ahead and give us the score of this game, and the closest 2 people that'll get it are going to get a T-shirt.
Yep. So all you got to do is send in what you think the score will be. That's how it's going to go. The Browns look good right now. Getting into the analysis. OBJ had 80 yards last week receiving, 70 yards rushing. That's kind of ridiculous. He had 3 touchdowns. The Colts D is actually better than I thought they would be. The Colts D is better than the Cowboys D, though. So we'll see how the Browns answer to that call. Colts won last week, didn't look good. Phillip Rivers had 190 yards throwing. Their team combined for 100 yards rushing. I still think the Colts are one of those 3-1 teams that could be 1-3, and I would actually probably be not surprised at all. I've got the Browns. Colts are favored by 1.5. I've got the Browns by a touchdown.
I'm going to stand up for this, dude. I'm sick of the Browns already. I'm sick and tired of all my friends being big Browns fans saying, "Oh, we're going to make it to the Super Bowl. We're going to make it to the Super Bowl. Make it to the playoffs." I'm tired of it. You guys said you were going to make the Super Bowl last year, and you guys were
not good.
Second to last in the division. They do it all the time. You're still the Cleveland Browns. I don't know I don't know why, for whatever reason. This is me as a Bengals fan. I understand that I'm bad, but you guys don't. I I hate that this is the game of the week, too. I don't like the Colts. I don't like the Colts at all as being a 3-1 team. I think the Browns are going to win, and that's why I'm so frustrated. Because now I personally have got a couple bets with a couple Browns fans on the Bengals versus Browns this season, and I am going to be having to pay up, and I'm not happy about it.
Also, I remember telling you that stat the other day that Baker Mayfield has more career commercials than career wins. But you're still taking the Browns this week?
Yeah, I'm taking the Browns because the Colts suck. And the Browns are about to have their 4th win against now the Washington football team, the Cincinnati Bengals, the Dallas Cowboys, and now the Indianapolis Colts, and everybody's going to tell me that they're a team to be reckoned with in this league, and they're not because they can't beat good teams.
They can't wheat?
They can't beat good teams. They can't beat good teams. I'm just saying.
You're fired up, man. Whew! But taking the Browns.
I'm taking the Browns, yeah.
All right. That is all we have for Week 5 of the Turnover. Again, alongside Kelvin, we have the giveaway. Comment. Send us a DM on Twitter.
Yep.
You know, send it. Thanks. Have a good week.
Have a good one, guys.
UFTV is your university and community TV station.